Now that the NBA draft lottery has been completed and the NBA Combine is over, most pre-draft information has been gathered on the 2025 NBA draft class. We're starting to get a pretty clear picture of where former Texas Longhorns guard Tre Johnson is going to end up. In some mock drafts published right after the lottery, Johnson was mostly projected to go 6th to the Washington Wizards. A couple had him 5th to the Utah Jazz. One mock had him falling to the Toronto Raptors at 9th. The decision will really come down to Utah. If the Jazz don't take Johnson at number 5, he will likely be snatched up by Washington at number 6 now. USA Today Sports has added information from the NBA Combine for a more definitive 2025 NBA mock draft. They believe Johnson is too good for the Jazz to pass up. Johnson is a natural shooter and scorer. He does well when scoring on the move and is a decent playmaker for his size. He still needs to work on his ability to make plays for others. He must also work on his strength and his explosiveness in order to assert himself as a finisher at the rim. He had 3 30-point games in the past 2 months, including 39 against Arkansas on February 26. He had 23 points and 6 rebounds in an NCAA tournament loss to Xavier. USA Today Sports Utah has been a perennial playoff team for most of the past decade. But this year, the 17-65 Jazz had the worst record in the NBA. The worst record gave the Jazz the best odds in the NBA lottery, but luck wasn't on Utah's side, who slide down to the 5th pick. That bad luck might turn out all right if they do pick Johnson and he grows into an NBA star. Zion was supposed to be the next Charles Barkley. Maybe even the next LeBron. But 6 years later, the Pelicans still haven't won a playoff series with him. He's played just 214 games. They've averaged 35 wins and shuffled through roster constructions like it's fantasy basketball. Gentry didn't even last a full season after his big lottery night celebration, and David Griffin, who drafted Zion, got canned last month. The team hit the jackpot and somehow ended up right back in the lottery. There's a buzz now over Dallas landing the right to draft Cooper Flagg, who is a much safer prospect than Zion, but there's still no guarantee Flagg becomes a star. You can land the most hyped prospect and still end up right back where you started. Talent matters, of course. But so do health, development, culture, fit, timing, coaching and a dozen other factors. That's why teams aren't just focused on the top of the board. They're digging for prospects who might outplay their slots and look like true prizes when we do redrafts years from now. That's what teams use Chicago for, seeing players up close, asking them questions and collecting information that doesn't show up on synergy clips. In a year where 8 teams hold multiple first-round picks, a ton of movement is expected. Teams with ammo to make trades will be targeting the player they define as the likely steal of the draft. After a week in Chicago, a few of those names are rising in this mock draft. Could the draft night steal be Carter Bryant, the versatile Arizona freshman forward who began to blossom to close the season? Or Cedric Coward, who's gone from Division III to projected first-rounder? Or maybe it's a guy who wasn't even in Chicago, like French forward Noah Esseng, who's shining to close his season overseas. Zion is a reminder the top of the draft doesn't always deliver a franchise cornerstone, and the best player in a class is often found further down the board. So with that in mind, after a week of interviews, front office whispers and recalibrated evaluations, here's my latest mock draft. All indications at the NBA Draft Combine in Chicago are the Mavericks will indeed keep the first pick and select Flagg. With that said, GM Nico Harrison did say at his end-of-season news conference, "You'll see when our team is healthy again, we're going to be competing for a championship." Does a rookie actually help that mission? Flagg would, but not as much as a proven star. So if a significant offer is on the table, wouldn't Nico at least listen? Even if so, perhaps other powers that be in Dallas wouldn't allow it to happen because Flagg is someone who can still help in both the short term and long term as a do-it-all forward who hustles, makes his teammates better as a passer and has dialed in a knockdown jumper. He's both the best offensive and defensive prospect in this draft class, making him the safest number 1 pick in ages. As long as his jumper falls, he could play as a small forward next to Anthony Davis and another big. It's his growth as a shot creator that will decide if he reaches his all-star floor or soars to his Hall of Fame ceiling.